Good to see everybody this morning. Today is the day. This is when it all starts. Take your Bible and open up to Revelation chapter 6.
Yes.
And I want you to somehow or another side mark Matthew chapter 24, because we'll be going back and forth quite a bit. When Jesus told his disciples about what was coming, I never noticed it till we got to studying and preparing on it. It's in the exact same order as what's taking place right here in Revelation chapter 6. Let's begin this morning with verses 1 and 2. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Well, remember, just reminder from last week, the call went out throughout heaven, the earth, under the earth, for someone to come and take the scroll and open those seals, and there was no one found worthy until the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, the Lamb that had appeared as already slain, showed up. And he took the scroll. John tells us here, beginning in chapter 6, that he saw the Lamb open the first seal on this scroll, and this is the beginning of Jacob's trouble. It starts Daniel's 70th week, and we know there was this gap between the 69th and the 70th week, and we know that is the church age. At the end of the church age, we know the rapture, that taking away of the church from the earth takes place, and there's a lot of debate out there about how long it's going to be until this time of tribulation starts. And there's nothing that really says. I think the rapture itself is going to be enough chaos that tribulation might as well start right then. If that's at noon, at 12:01, the tribulation has begun. And so that's kind of my thought on it. John said he heard one of the creatures, one of the cherubs around the throne, and he described his voice as being like thunder. He says, "Come and see." Now, I don't know, we've got nothing more to go at, but somehow from where John was, the view wasn't for the vision wasn't right, so he had to go near the throne, somewhere over there in the circle, the cherubim and the throne, and from there he had the vision of what was going to take place. He said he saw a white horse, and the one that sat on that horse had a bow and a crown. Now, let me tell you, you're going to run across many who are, I don't mind saying right here and now, are incorrect when they say this is Jesus on the white horse. Jesus does come on a white horse in chapter 19. But that's 7 years after this. This is not Jesus. This is an impostor. The Bible tells us he has a bow, but there's no mention of arrows. So this is a sign of power, but it's going to be a political type power, not military type power. And many commentators kind of made reference back to Nimrod as being a great hunter of men and an adversary of God. And the one coming on this white horse is going to be an adversary of God. But the word for crown that's used here is not reference to a royal crown. In chapter 19, Jesus is described as a crown, and that is the diadem, the royal crown. This person has a lesser crown. I believe it's a given that this guy's been in the shadows and very likely may be alive and well right this very day.
That's right.
But God has appointed a time. He's not revealed yet. We don't know exactly who it may be. I've got some guesses. But it's going to be up to God. He has a time already appointed when this man of sin is going to be revealed. And so this person on this white horse, I believe, is the Antichrist.
Yes.
Now, what do we think of when we think of a white horse? Our hero, our rescuer, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, those, in the movies, the guy that rides into town with the white hat and the white horse, he was always the guy coming to save the place. And that's exactly how the Antichrist is going to show up. He's going to show up as the guy that has the answers to fix it all. But he's an imitator. He imitates Jesus in every way possible, even at some point in the tribulation, taking a mortal wound, appearing to be dead for 3 days and coming back to life. And so, he's nothing but a deceiver. And I believe in everything we see taking place, the stage is being set right now. I mean, if you've not kept up with this BRICS thing that's taking place, this alliance between Brazil and Russia, India and China, they're coming up with a new world currency.
Yes.
25 countries have already rejected the American dollar as their currency. We're just weeks, maybe days away from them being able to collapse our entire economy. So when a few more countries forsake the dollar as their currency, we're done. I mean, they stop paying in them loan payments and stuff. America's in for real trouble here pretty quick. And the world's looking. I mean, all across the world right now, there's chaos, confusion, wars. I mean, everything you can imagine going on, and they're looking for a savior, not a spiritual savior, but the world is looking for that political person to rise up who has all the answers. Peace and safety is going to be his message. And when he shows up, don't expect anything less but the entire world to bow down at his feet, because he's going to appear as being the Savior of the world, the one who finally is going to come and fix all these things that politicians, not just in our country, but all over the world, for years they've been saying, we know how to fix it, we've got the answers, and things have just gotten worse and worse and worse. Turn over to Matthew chapter 24. Look at verse 5. Starting verse 4 there. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So the Antichrist is going to show up and he's going to fool the entire world. Right. Especially the Jews. You know, what's the Bible tell us when they declare peace and safety?
Sudden destruction.
Look out. Its trouble has arrived. And he's going to do what no politicians have been able. Bill Clinton came close. Donald Trump made some progress, but really no president, no leader from anywhere around the world has really been able to negotiate peace between Israel and the Muslims. But this guy's going to. So much so that on the Temple Mount, where the Muslims have their temple, he's going to build a temple for the Jews. And they're going to get along for a little while.
Right.
But halfway through this 7-year period, 3.5 years in, what's described as the abomination of desolation is going to take place as he goes into the Holy of Holies and declares himself to be God. Now, I believe from the very beginning, as soon as he shows up, the world is going to be so enamored with him that from the very beginning, he's going to demand the worship of the people of the world. And from the very start, he's going to begin to kill those who will not bow down and worship him. So from the very get-go here, this very first seal opens up, and it's already trouble. But what we're going to see as we go through this is each one of these seals are opened up, it gets progressively worse. Every seal is worse than the one before it, and they just keep getting worse and worse, one adding on top of the other, until they get through the 6 of them. And then when they open the 7th one, that opens up a whole nother 7 judgments called the trumpet judgments. Look in verse 3 and 4. And when he had opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Again, John saw the Lord open another seal in this scroll, the 2nd seal. And again, as it's opened, the cherub says, Come and see. And John saw a fiery red horse. Now, red, they say, is the color of war.
Yes.
And the rider of this horse, it was given to him power to take peace from the world. The Bible tells us he has a great sword, but it doesn't sound to me like he had to use it. He simply took peace away and left it up to men after that. You know, peace is a gift of God that men have different colors, different nationalities can get along at all without killing one another. And so there's pretty much no point in history that we've ever had that there wasn't multiple wars going on at once around this globe. And so people are going to kill one another. The rider of this red horse, it doesn't sound to me as if he has to do anything except what he was given the power to do, to take peace away from men. War and conquest has always been the natural order of man. Whatever man's had, he's wanted more. Whoever had something better, man wanted it and he'd kill to get it. You realize since World War II, there's been more than 150 wars take place. Man's in a constant state of war. And we see it in our own government. The rich and the powerful, the politicians who've invested in the war machine, they make big profit money when wars are grinding out. And them companies are building aircraft and machinery and ships and all that sort of stuff, trillions and trillions of dollars being spent building the war machine. And, you know, Ronald Reagan was right. They're peace through strength. You've got to be strong enough to dissuade or discourage people from attacking you or coming after you. But how much is enough? Right now, the United States has 3,750 nuclear warheads. Each one of those warheads is almost 100 times more powerful than the atomic bombs that they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's more than enough to obliterate the entire surface of the earth many times over. And that's just our arsenal. That's not counting China and Russia and India and Pakistan and Israel and the other countries that have nuclear weapons. So when God removed the notion or the idea of peace from this world, a world that's already ran by evil men, the natural outcome of that was surely all-out war. And I don't think we can even begin to try to put a number on how many will be killed. And we're not talking about a little skirmish of U.S. in Iraq or Afghanistan, or I'm talking, if I'm understanding what this is, every nation fighting every nation. There is no place on this planet that there's going to be peace or safety. Every nation is going to be involved in war. I don't know if we're going to ally together or if it's just so chaotic after the rapture and God removing peace from the world that it's just everybody doing everything they can to try to destroy and remove anyone else. It is, you try to picture this in your mind, and this is going to be the most horrific time ever known. And you see how this is progressively getting worse? We start out, the Antichrist just killing those that not bow down and worship him. Now war on top of that, war has broken out on the entire planet. And people dying, I'm guessing, by the millions. I mean, even with antiquated weaponry of World War II, I mean, there were days when America lost as many as 6,000 men in a day. On the beaches of Normandy, D-Day, it was right at 6,000 men killed in one day there. We'll turn back to Matthew chapter 24 and let's see what Jesus mentions second in his list here. Starting in verse 6, he says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." So we've got Antichrist on the scene, and after anyone that not bow down and worship him, war has broken out over the entire planet. Every nation engaged against every other nation. Look now back in Revelation verses 5 and 6. "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." The Lord's opened the third seal in the scroll now, and again the cherub tells John, "Come and see." Now John may be thinking at this point in time, I've seen enough. I mean, this has gotten to be a pretty horrific picture of what's coming down the path. John sees here a black horse, and the rider has a set of scales. I believe the black horse and the scales here symbolize famine. Now, what's always the result of war? I don't care where it's fought at, what point in history it's fought. Famine. You can't go through and marched hundreds of thousands of soldiers and the tanks and trucks and equipment through the fields and over the land and bomb it and do everything that goes on through a war and expect to continue growing crops and raising food to feed your people. A famine is always the result of war, where the wars are being fought. And now we've got wars over the whole planet. So the creature says, a measure of wheat for a penny, or 3 measures of barley for a penny. Now, a measure of wheat is what they say it took to make 1 loaf of bread. And that is, they said, was a minimum that was required to sustain life. There are 3 measures of barley. Now, barley was an inferior grain, didn't have the nutritional value of wheat, and normally it was just for livestock. But you remember the prodigal son, he got down to the point where he was willing to eat the same husks and slop that they were giving the hogs. When it gets to this point in time, this point in God's judgment, and this famine hits this earth, you may be very glad to have barley. Now, penny or a denarius was the average day's wages for a common man.
That's right.
Do you get the picture? that the Lord's drawing here for John, you will work all day long just to get one loaf of bread. So what are you going to do to feed a family? How in the world are you going to be able to work, take care of your family? Maybe you got a wife and 2, 3, 4 kids. I'll tell you what, in my mind, is going to happen. We'll go back to the old days when people got so destitute that they sold their wife and their kids into slavery just for the ability to try and survive another day. But you see how this all pushes, it forces people into that place to take the mark of the beast. Because if you've not took that mark, you don't even have the ability to work for a day's wages. If this is all in effect at this time, you can't buy or sell, you won't have money to even buy a measure of barley, let alone wheat. And so as I look at this, I see the world being thrust into a period of great famine. So worldwide catastrophic that, my dad was born just prior to the Depression, and even grow as a kid, he remembered the rationing that the government imposed on the people and being hard to go to the store and buy groceries or food. It's going to make that look like a picnic. You're talking about worldwide starvation. People dying because they can't buy anything to eat. It's probably not there to buy a lot of times, even if they got the money. And that's what we were at the store yesterday, and half the bread section sold out, empty, gone. And the bread that was there, it's $6, $7 for a loaf of bread.
Already.
Wow.
So we're seeing. The stage is being set here, right here, in our time. But now look, I may be interpreting this incorrectly, but great strife is coming when famine hits. The Bible says, "See thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Who can afford the oil and the wine? The rich folks. They'll have money for stuff. But when somebody gets destitute to the point of starving, are they going to care one iota what they do to some rich guy or his family to try to get or take what he's got from him so they can survive one more day? And this comes down to that. There's nobody thinking long term. This is, what have I got to do today just so that I might be able to be here tomorrow? What have I got to do to survive, to make it through just one more day? Well, turn back to Matthew chapter 24. Back there in the last half of verse 7. Jesus said, "And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places." That divers places means everywhere, not just little spots here and there, everywhere. The whole planet, the whole earth, everybody is going to be experiencing the famine, and always with famine comes the pestilences that comes, and we're going to get into that here in this last seal. What's going to be looking like over the planet and what's taking place. Look in verse 7 and 8. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given to them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Now, I don't think I've mentioned it now. We've opened this fourth seal, and this is the fourth horse. And if you've never heard, this is what's referred to as the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yes.
And so there's more seals to be opened, but it's just these four horses and their riders is what initiates the beginning of the tribulation. And I don't think this is a long time drawn out over these four horses. I think this is boom, 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 and just in rapid succession, one right after the other, and the chaos that's created from the rapture. I wish them all the luck in the world with this idea of a mothership hiding out there behind a black hole somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think people are going to buy it. But again, when the Antichrist shows up, so many are going to be deceived. If that's what he throws up as an excuse, they probably will buy it. But here we've got the fourth seal being opened up, and the fourth cherub telling John to come and see. It says a pale horse. Well, the Greek used here is chlorox, or be our word, chlorine. This is a pale green, an odd color for a horse, but that's what's being described here is a pale green horse. And notice this rider has a name. The rest of them, we just says the rider sat on the horse and what power was given him. But this rider has a name. His name is Death. And so all four of these seals are resulting in just, there's no other word to describe it but a cataclysmic death to humankind. Now, a lot of people think there's 5 horses here because it says, "And hell followed." Did hell have his own horse, or was he just riding along with death? But anyway, I get the real picture here that the gatekeepers of hell are going to be working overtime for a while, because the influx of people that's coming in is going to be multiple times worse than what's taking place at our southern border. Thousands upon millions, more than millions, flooding into hell. They're going to be busy taking them in for a while. How do we know? Well, it tells us here they've got power over a quarter of the earth. Right now they say there's 7.2 billion people on this planet. It's growing exponentially. I mean, when you look at how population, from the Garden of Eden until mid-1800s, we increased by 1 billion. from mid-1800s, like 1930, we added another billion. And then like 20 years, another billion. 10 years, another billion. 5 years, another billion. It's exponentially growing rapidly. But even if this took place today, 1.8 billion people are going to die at this fourth seal. How in the world is they going to handle that many bodies? And that's what Jesus described. We don't have to turn back there now, but back in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 21, he says, "For then there shall be great tribulation, worse than the world has ever seen or ever will see again." So the whole earth is being judged with these seals. Every nation on this planet is being affected by this. They're being killed by the sword. Seals 1 and 2. Famine's killing people. Seal number 3. And just people outright dying now. Seal number 4. And he says there, they're going to be killed with the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Now that translates into wild beast. What wild beast has killed the most humans? If you were to say the king of the jungle, the lions, I'd have to say, no, guess again. Well, crocodiles and alligators. Guess again. All the poisonous snakes on the planet? No. Rats. Rats have killed more human beings than all them other 3 combined. The Black Death in the mid-1300s, during a time of famine and pestilence. There was actually too many for them to get an accurate count, but they estimate somewhere between 75 and 200 million people died of the Black Plague or the Black Death. I don't know about you, but it's frightening studying and looking at this stuff, even knowing I'm not going to be here. My mind doesn't like picturing this stuff. It doesn't like looking at it. Imagine the horror that's going to take place when every day millions upon millions of people are going to die. And all you've got to look forward to is the next day when millions and millions more people are going to die. Now, there's still more seals to be opened here. We're out of time for this morning, but rest assured, Jesus is still holding on to that scroll. Right. There's more seals that have to be opened. And as I said earlier, when that 7th seal is open, it unleashes 7 more. So it's not ending anytime soon, and 7 years is going to be a horrific time for those that are left behind and have to go through what is coming. So thank you for being here this morning.